is something that Trustee Carpenter said during budget, and we were talking about bus station benches, and it was, you know, these are the niceties, so I love this magazine. I think it's one of the most well-produced magazines out there. I also love our landscaping, so I feel like anything that we could do, I would expect our community partners and our partner for the last few years to help us to try to reduce the taxpayers' injection into this magazine. We've asked for it for 3 years. So I'm disappointed. I will not vote for the contract, the recommended contract for this reason. And there are, it's beautiful, but if we needed, if you asking what could you do, you could downgrade the glossiness. I mean, there are things that also can be done, or even just a little bit of a rate increase. I mean, you heard the fire chief say, we use the medical CPI. The CPI is high this year. So why wouldn't we raise our rates when inflation's so high? So yes, Tyler.
I just want to make sure I'm clear from a staff perspective. So what's your end goal?
My end goal would be, I totally agree with Ms. Capriel's approach and what you just said, which is every partner in any partnership should be putting in some money. That shows that you have a commitment. But that's like a symbolic commitment almost. I really believe that we could produce a communication product in our village for less money that's being presented and recommended. And when we ask that question now for the 3rd year in a row, we've gotten the answer of no, nothing. We could, but we don't recommend it. And so I have a really hard time with that answer when there's other proposals that are willing to look.
Okay.
Trustee Mento.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. I mean, you wrote the RFP based on, many interactions with us and the entire board about what we would like to see for Shorewood today. And I agree, and I actually took the time this afternoon to go and look back at the last couple of years at the issues and the number of things that are covered, and it just gives a really great, sense of Shorewood and what's happening and what residents need to know. Now, in terms of the village for our issues, the fact that it's quarterly, I think, means that we can only highlight like really long-term initiatives or things that we're talking about. It's not timely. It's not like something comes up and we can get it in Shorewood today. So, I mean, it has limitations for us from a public information perspective. Mm-hmm. And that's why, many times when trustees have talked about it, like, wow, wouldn't it be great if we did something maybe not quite so beautiful, not quite so fancy, but in a more timely way that would be more useful to us in terms of communicating with residents. So, we wouldn't have to be talking about something 3 months before the publication date, Okay. So I mean, you wrote the RFP and you put a lot of thought based on conversations of many years with us as to what we would like to see. And I'm also a little disappointed that what we've gotten back it was not at all responsive to some of the things we were looking for. So.
Okay. Yeah, trust me, for the board, just so I was really hoping for 6. Because I think that would address some of the communication gaps that we have. Like there's some events that, like example, if there's an event in May, it's really hard to cover that because March is too early, and then you get to June and it's already happened. So there's some months that are really hard to cover. But as I mentioned, as I learned through the process, time-wise,
you can't get to 6 unless you did a change into the document, because that's like the first thing.
Yeah, you would have to.
So if you're not willing to make a change to the document, you're never going to you can't respond that you can do 6. And so it was like, the answer was, well, we can't do 6 because it'd be way cost prohibitive. Of course it would. I mean,
we weren't asking for the current Shorewood today 6 times instead of 4 times. We were asking for something downsized a little bit and different. And maybe we need to have more conversations with our partners about what we're talking about. I mean, maybe they didn't understand what our concerns were and our issues were with it. So or maybe it meets their needs, so they weren't sympathetic to our needs. I don't know.
Do you mind if I allow? With Polly here, if you were to change the product, can you address what that would look like, or the feasibility of that, or is that too hard to respond on the cuff?
It would be completely different, and I think that we have to think about the partners, which when I say partners, I mean the village and the bid and the school district's communications goals and how this publication fits into those. So right now, this is really the only communications tool the village has that goes to everyone. You have other tools like the village manager's memo, but it's not nearly as widely subscribed. And so the idea, I agree with your timeliness comment because it is challenging. And so we have to think about what, is it valuable to have a magazine that can let the partners kind of expand on topics in a longer form, which they really can't do in other communications tools, and then this one goes directly to everyone. So that's what the partners have tended to use it for. And then they have gotten their timely messages out through other vehicles, their website, the manager's memo, any kind of other tools. But I don't know what other tools besides some of the flyers and mailers that the village has that are directly just marketing communications. I don't know that there are any. But it would be a completely different type of product. It wouldn't be it wouldn't really be this kind of product. I wouldn't recommend that. I think that to produce something even close to this quality, it would just be cost prohibitive, and the timing as well would be pretty challenging.
Trustee Moore?
Can I say one more thing? Also, we did reduce the contribution. I just want to make that clear. The contribution recommended is less than last year's.
Based on the printing cost being
Yes.
lower? Right, the printer. Trustee Warren?
I just wanted to chime in and say, President Rosick, Trustee Menta, I completely agree with kind of paraphrasing both of you that this is a tough budget cycle. And it's incumbent upon us as a board to watch every penny we spend, to be responsible with every penny we spend. What I'm struggling with here is that this is such a great communication tool, and you're right, you did cut down some of the contribution. And the last thing I would want to do is endanger the quality of this tool, this magazine that our residents rely on. Even if it is 3 months, a little 3 months lag time, it allows for more expanded form articles, it allows for dissemination of information to the community. So I really, I'm a supporter of this magazine. I do wish that we could, going forward, maybe down the line, try to figure out options to reduce the contributions from all the partners. That said, I think that the 58,4475 is a good step in the right direction.
Just following up, I think Paul kind of hit it on the head for me, and in 3 years, when you're asking the same question, you might feel the same way. But the school district has a communications program. They have their own, like a communications staff person. We do not, this is our communication budget, basically. And so that's a little different because the village has, over the years, I've heard some of the board members, including myself, say, how can we increase communications with our residents, because that's something that we're hearing from the residents that they want. So this ties up our communication budget, and so we do have the manager's memo, but it's not quite the same. So the other thought that I had last time was, how do we, print media is dying, and not that that's good. I'm not saying I agree with it or not agree with it, but you see papers for an exact reason. Look at what was the magazine, what was the newspaper that just went out of business? The Gazette. I mean, they're facing the same issues we are in the private sector, and they raised rent, and so we're not responding at all by going, our rates for advertising, I'm not saying make up the whole thing in advertising, but our CPI is at 2.8. The cost of our salaries are going up, the cost of everything is going up, yet we're not charging the private sector more. I'm a business, I expect that. Most places raise their rates with cost of inflation. So the fact that nothing was adjusted this year, I know it was last year slightly, but this is even a bigger inflation year. So for all of those reasons that, I wanted some flexibility and some response to, anything, and putting the people that do such a wonderful job on the spot tonight and say, what could you do, and come up with something. They had that time, and there wasn't any suggestions. besides the printing cost came down. But I do feel that we do have an alternative in our packet as so one of two things that could happen tonight for me if I was going to vote and had my choice. It would be either, can you go back to our partners and to the market leadership and talk about this a little more? And see if there's any suggestions. Maybe it's the printing weight of the paper, maybe it's raising the rates by 1%, 2%, or whatever inflation is, but just anything that we can do as we're doing through our budget system to reduce some cost. And so that would be my suggestion. Either that or I would recommend to choose the all-in $500 contribution, yes.
So, if I may ask just for, that's why I kind of asked your end game, because I knew that you wanted to reduce costs, right? So
Yes.
I think I really tried to work hard with the three of making sure that with all the proposals that came forward to the leadership committee, that they would all drop the community partnership. I think Paula would echo too, like how many times I communicated with her and Michelle. It's very important for the board that we get the contribution lower. I probably said it at least 10 times to them. So that's where, for me, I'm looking for a little bit more clarity, because I did work really hard to get it from 5,800 to 4,475. So if you want it lower, that's where I kind of need a number. Like, what is there a number that you have in mind
I really
that you
don't.
want it at?
I really don't. And did it drop because CDA put in their money also, or did we do that last year?
No, we did that last
Oh,
year.
it was big.
Yeah, printing, we made some changes with the printer and with the bidding process. Fox Company came down and we, if you remember as a board, you asked to eliminate some printed copies, which we ended up eliminating 200
I think
copies,
that's what
which helped as
the
well.
cost, right, because there was duplications of the handouts, but that's a separate contract, isn't it?
It is a separate
Okay,
contract,
so yeah, I'm talking about
but they
just
still
the
go hand in
design,
hand.
yeah. Okay, trustee Herbert.
Yeah, I think the thing for me that I find challenging, because I really do love the publication, is just really looking at the advertising costs when you compare our circulation size to Whitefish Bay's circulation size, and we circulate to more people but charge half as much. I think, you know, maybe there's, I think that's what President Roseck's referring to, but maybe there is some, you know, increase in advertising costs, so we can keep that ratio to what I think is really important. You know, to me, I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect, and maybe that's where we can sort of make up that difference.
So, I mean, I'll let someone make a motion, but I think what I'm starting to hear is you want to go back and inquire if MD Marketing Solutions would require an advertisement increase, especially knowing that inflation, with the inflation factor. I remember I did ask Michelle, I think Michelle wants to prevent increasing advertising rates every year, but I'm hearing from at least, I think majority of the board members that you want her to revisit that.
Sorry.
I want to make sure I'm clear on what you're saying.
I don't know the number of, or the cost for advertising last year, like how much did it go up from?
So what her pattern has been is like, she's been increasing it every other year, so it's not like she's asking each sponsor or advertiser to give more and more money every year. That's kind of, that's why in the proposal, I think she didn't submit an increase the first year, but then the second year there would be a bump to prevent it seeming like she's asking for more money every year.
But you don't, for last year's rates, it's not in the packet.
From 2017 to 2018, there was an increase.
There was, okay.
Yeah.
But not from last year to this year.
Correct.
No, it's zero.
From 18 and 19 in the proposal, there's no increase, correct? Yeah, but
But there is-
17 to 18 there
All right,
was.
and then there would be.
And then there is
20, there would be.
proposed, so this is a 2-year contract that we're.
Three
It's
years.
actually three.
So then, within the scope of within the timeframe of the contract, there would be an increase next year.
And what is that, what is it? So we know, is it built into this contract of what the rate goes up?
It was in their proposal.
What- Do you remember, I'm sorry.
I would have to, I can bring it up real quick if you want.
Do you remember, is everyone on board?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
This procedurally, I'm not sure if we can, if we, I mean, we can just not approve this, and give Tyler direction to go back to marketing leadership in terms of how, but I don't think like we can approve it with a change because there's these other partners involved. So would you say that, Tyler?
That is correct.
Yes. I am cautioning though, because this is a budget decision ahead of the budget, so just, I clarify at the beginning that, and it's a 3-year budget decision, so
Yeah.
we're locked in, and there's only one other thing while you're looking for that I had on my plate here. For some of the other things that I liked about the flexibility of the other contract was designing for small businesses for free. I thought that was huge in our community, so that kind of takes that advertisement rate, even if it goes up, and we pay to write this magazine, we pay additionally to write for the writing, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not the writing, and so the fact that the designer was willing to do that for free to our small business community was really big for me. Also, Trustee Carpenter had mentioned in a previous discussion at the board about retaining the rights to all of the materials